Welcome everyone. In this short movie we're going to take a look at some of the usability functionality that was introduced in the 16.3 release. Right now I'm showing you the new fold-out dockable windows that we have that replace the fixed tabs at the bottom of the GUI. These are similar to the window panes that are available in Allegro PCB editor. And you can see that they can be configured in any way that you want, and they'll give you more canvas real estate if you desire. You'll see there are also a bunch of new icons, some for adding components and some for existing functionality that never had an icon. If you've ever done this in the past where you've accidentally deleted a toolbar, you can know how difficult it was to get it back. We now have a command that will allow you to control the visibility of existing toolbars or allow you to customize and create your own. If you do get yourself into a point where you're not sure what state the GUI is in, or you just want to reset things, there's a new command to reset it back to the default that was supplied with the original version. So let's take a look at some of the other changes, namely what it takes to add components in 16.3. What I'm doing now is showing you what it was like in previous releases. Namely, you go to the Add Element browser, you adjust your filter for the type of part you'd like to add, and scroll through until you find your device and then place in the canvas. In 16.3, with these new icons, you can merely click the type of element you want here. In this case, we want a single-ended buffer and maybe some interconnect in between. There's a new symbol for a trace element, and I can just simply wire these up. And just like that, we've created a topology. Now, if you look at the pull downs, if you didn't want a bidirectional element, you can choose input output, and similarly for differential buffers as well. So now that we've created this new topology, let's take a look at some of the new editing capabilities that are also available in 16.3. You'll notice as I hover over these icons, they're not canvas modes anymore. They now say to delete or move a selected item. And so the default action in the canvas now is to click and move or select and drag, if you will. And so you're not going to be trapped anymore like you're in the delete mode, for example, when you really wanted to move something. Right now I'm showing you the new right mouse button capability for all the elements on the canvas. They're pretty much all organized the same. At the top you'll find items that are specific to the or context sensitive to the element that you've selected. I'm showing you the ability to change buffer. For example, if you could just place a particular type of buffer on the canvas and then use the change buffer model to get the model you want. There's also the capability to launch the new model editor. This will eventually replace model integrity, but this is a very quick way to right-click on an element in the canvas and edit or view the associated buffer model. In this case, we're just using a default at this point. Let's just say, for sake of argument, that we wanted to delete this component and make a copy of the buffer on the left-hand side. If I click on that, and instead of just dragging, I instead hit the control key and hold it down. When I drag, I instead make a copy rather than just a move. And if I move it and just overlay it or touch it with one of the pins that I want to make connection to, I instantly have a connection. I don't have to go back and create a wire by clicking. And of course I can right click on here and quickly change the stimulus. And I think it wasn't obvious before that you could click the white text in order to change the stimulus, now available in a right mouse button menu. If I look at some trace elements, obviously similar functionality. I can look at the parameters. There's new access to functionality that was previously hidden, like the view trace parameters dialog. And this was always difficult in the past, but you can now right click and get a not only see what the associated field solution is for that trace element, but also quickly bring that up in the new model editor. If I right click in the blank space, there are also some new commands available there. There's a new one, manage layer stacks. In 16.3, SIGXP is now stack up aware. I can import stackups in a variety of formats directly from a board file or from an Allegro tech file. Or if I don't want to import it that way, there are defaults that we provide for you. You can also have it configured so that your own defaults could be loaded. So let's choose a 6-layer stack up, and we'll just change the name here. And so now I have a stack up loaded inside SIGXP. If I'd extracted this topology from a board file, the stack up would have come along with it. I can now edit that stack up, and you'll notice that it uses the exact same stack up editor that's available in the board products, whether the floor planner or Allegro PCB editor. And just for sake of argument here, this was a blank core. We'll just change it to a plain layer just to make a change. And once I've done that, if I do make changes to a stack up, I can export that out as a text file that I can use to leverage further downstream. I could pass it off to my PCB designer or use it in whatever board layout tool that I wish. So again, if I right click now, I can associate that trace to a layer. You'll notice we have tooltips now as well, and the parameter information is now shrunk, because if we want to make changes to that trace layer, we would go back and edit the stack up. And now I can easily change it to another layer, or I can remove it from a layer and change it back to what we call a free floating model, and you'll see that all the parameter information restores. So just some other minor things that we've done. We've made it possible to rotate and mirror virtually any component in the canvas. These functions were pretty limited in the past. And this is an example of a via model, which almost always ends up that the layer that you want to connect to is on the opposite side of the canvas, and I can now mirror those. I can rotate buffer models or pretty much anything else on the canvas if you so choose to, if you need it to help clean up the display. And once you've got something looking good and you want to pass it on as part of documentation, there's the ability to capture a canvas image, quickly save a bitmap away that you can use. It gets placed in the system clipboard. You can easily use that in a program like Paint or Microsoft Word. Some of the other changes that we've made relate to easing the use of native modeling formats, or getting other modeling formats into your canvas. So if we go to what used to be Add Part and the new Add Element, you'll notice there's a new button there to browse all models. Previously, everything had to be in DML format before it could even be accessed in SIG-XP. So this is the DML Models tab, and you can come in here and quickly click any DML model, but you'll notice that there's also separate tabs for all other different types of modeling formats. If I click on this button here and edit my search model path, all modeling formats, including DML, are now managed by directory. They're not managed by individual library files or individual DML files or indices anymore. And for the native formats, we find modeling types in those directories that we have listed by file extension. So the other thing I'm showing you here is what replaces the old library browser functionality. So you'll see typical things like the ability to make indices or merge libraries, and we now have the ability to ignore certain DML files because we search by directories now. If I click on the IBIS Models tab, this file was found in my working directory based on the fact that it had the same file extension that I said I should look for IBIS files. So if I click on that file, I can do a translation on the fly, and I get a dialog here that tells me whether or not I want to make the model names unique or not, and I can choose never to show that again. And if I click on one of these, and I am now clicking on one of the translated buffer models, even though I do that, I click and I want to edit, the new model editor comes back with the original IBIS file format. If I made edits there, it would retranslate for me, and then just like that I can quickly select one of these things and make sure I double click here and place it in the canvas, but you can see that the path getting from IBIS to the canvas is much smoother now. And if I choose to, instead of managing a library of DML models, I can manage a library of IBIS models. And that pretty much concludes the movie at this point in time. I hope you found it useful. Just overview of some of the new ease of use capabilities in the 16.3 release. Thank you for your time.